I just got back from a couple hours ago from the zoo, and this is going to be some new information. Why the details are embedded in, I can remember, is very frightening to me, how well I seem to be able to remember this. But there's still no explanation. That is why it's not being remembered. And my mother didn't want to say anything. This is about the hostage situation when the knife was pulled up to my mother's throat and Frankie was viciously raped. When we went to, before I get anything else, I'm having a tremendous amount of pain on the side of my face and on the back of my brain, or back of my head. It just, I don't know if it's an uncommon feeling of a stroke or brain hemorrhage, but it hurts really bad. It hurts pretty bad. I don't know if they're shooting an electronic device, but it just started to hurt as soon as I got there to the zoo. But I want to say this. You can verify this information if Frankie's healthy, and my mother, if she's healthy. But to my understanding, my mother isn't, and Frankie would be the only option to verify this truth. I'm going to draw pictures of it later. This is about when we went. The thing is so fucked up is that my mother is entirely scared of this person. It's a blonde-haired lady that looks like a body shape like Miss Nevis, like a kind of chubby, but I'm positive this is built like a transgender. Okay, so this is what happens. This is what this person does. This person was the one I gave away this Tyco RC. 100%. I'm 100%. This is how I'm able to validate it. When, I don't know for what reason, after that rape happened, there was this lady that either came back, I don't know if it was like a month later, I think it was maybe 2 months later, and this lady saw my dad, and my mother never told my dad. And because I remember her standing in the living room, and what she did is the clock wasn't working. Either she gave us the clock or the clock wasn't working up in the living room, and we still had this clock. I'm pretty sure my mother still has it. And the clock, like, batteries didn't work. And she goes, "Oh, don't worry, I'll want to put some batteries in it." And she got some batteries, and she put some batteries, and the clock was working. But I remember my mother, the way that she was approaching this lady. She's like, "Oh, okay," thinking like totally, very, very much surrendering. But this lady, I don't know why she came into our house to talk to us. You got to keep in mind the communication wasn't going between her and my dad. It was only going between my mother, because this was like my mother's side of the family. So, for whatever reason, I remember there was like a white little kid. I'm going to say he was like a blonde-haired kid. Kind of dirty blonde-haired kid, but he was a white kid. And he didn't have any toys. And I remember playing him with outside in front of our porch. So I gave him and decided, for some reason, I don't know why, I was like, "You can have my car or whatever. You can have my Tyco RC," because the kid lived in an apartment and he really didn't have any toys. And for some reason, I wanted to be nice to this kid. I don't know why. I don't know if it was whatever the circumstances. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm about 6 years old. I might have been 7. This is all in the increments within about a 5-month, from the minute he got raped to about 5 months. I mean, it could have been a month, could have been 3 weeks, could have been 3. I'm going to say it was within 2 months of that. Now, we went, and my mother, you got to understand how my mother's very surrendering. You can tell her what to do at this point in time in life, and she's going to do it out of survival. And it's not greed, it's not selfishness. It's because she knows she has no choice because of money, place to live, an education, and the police or retaliation. Because the police isn't going to do anything. So what happens is we drive, put the thing in the car, and we take off to the apartments. It's right across the apartments. It's right across the apartments from Bingo. I know that people can be tracked down to where they live, and very detailed, because if you've ever seen Ancestry, they can track down where you lived 40 years ago, your residence, your job, your heritage, all kinds of shit. So you're very likely that you can have a good chance who this person's name was, who at least owned that apartment, that lived there. And you can track it down that way. If you can't, ask my uncle or one of the other relatives. We go to the house. My mother is very nervous when we're driving. You got to keep in mind that not only I don't understand the circumstances, but I don't know, I'm too young to understand that this lady has any associations with this rape, like telling this guy to rape the little kid. I don't know what cookie craziness of this transgender. I know this couldn't have been a female. I know this couldn't have been a female. This was like a transgender. It kind of seemed masculine. And we get there, and my mother feels like we just want to go ahead and get this done. And I want to say that my mother doesn't know that guy that raped is staying in this apartment. And I don't know if she knew. I don't believe she knew, because we just went with this lady. I don't know why this lady just showed up. I don't remember what the story was. Kind of borrowed $20 just to have a conversation, just to drag the conversation. So we get over to the apartment complex. Once we get to the apartment complex, we're standing outside, and I don't know, I just remember there was me, the little kid, Frankie, a positive 100%. Me, Frankie, the little kid, this lady, my mother. I don't know if Beto and Chita were there. I want to say, I think one of them could have, but I'm not sure about that, okay? And we take the car off, and then I give this, and I tell him, yeah, you can have it, it's yours. But my mother is telling me, she's like, oh, es bueno, Hector, sí, es bueno, Hector. And she's doing this, she's like, es bueno, Hector, sí lo das, no, es pobre, no necesito. And I noticed that Frankie, like the guy that came over to the truck, either to help move it off the truck or did something. And he had like I want to say he fucking had like a flathead, or he had like a screwdriver, but he had like a tool in his hand, and he fucking dropped it. Like as soon as he's around the truck, I don't know if it was his truck, but this is at night. This is like at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. There's hardly any lights, and we're in like sort of the back area of the apartment complex where you won't see a whole lot of light. There wasn't anyone else around. And there's all these cars. There could have been maybe a couple people walking by or so, but it was just secluded. And we're in this apartment complex, and I'm going to say he drops something on the floor, and it's almost like he either wants a forgiveness story, or he wants to reaffirm his threat not to say anything. And I think this guy's paranoid. I think he's paranoid because he thinks that, oh, now they know where I live. I don't know what the circumstances, but this guy was there, and I'm going to say that he was staying in that apartment with this person. My mother saw Frankie cry, or like getting eyes red, and I go, and Frankie was like starting to cry, like not his eyes are just welling up red. It's not like a sound cry, and he just. Out of nowhere, and I don't understand why. And I just remember like looking at this guy, and he shows up for a moment. Like he either shows up, and I look at him, and I was like, "Is it the guy that held a knife to my mom's throat?" And I look over at my mother, and I don't understand. And it's confusing to me. Why are you? What the fuck is going on? And I notice Frankie's. And he sort of goes either back into walking into the house, but I want to say he gives an affirmation to my mother like a deadly look. This lady is continually outside the entire time talking to my mother. I don't know what she's saying, but whatever it is, it's strictly milk the situation, manipulate, whatever it is. And I think this lady's kind of nervous that she doesn't want to get caught. And we were probably not there more than 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We get back into the car, and my mother gets into the car, and her eyes are welling up. And she goes, and she looks in the rearview mirror, and she knows that Frankie's crying. And I'm looking at Frankie like, how come you crying? Like, I don't understand. And he doesn't say anything. And my mother just looks at the rearview mirror, and she goes, and she always, when my mother sometimes, when she would cry, she would do this. It's okay. And she does that. And she looks like, looking at Frankie like, and she's looking ahead like, I have no choice. Like, I have to do what I have to do to survive, but we're alive. Like, it's okay. And she just like, with her eyes red. It's not like a whole lot of sound. It's just her eyes really red and tearing up with emotion. And I keep asking, what the heck? And I don't understand, but I remember this guy dropped something on the ground, or he was like to reaffirm his threat. And we leave, we never return. But at some point, I don't know if it was, there's 3 points, there's 3 sections to this. The rape that happened, and then there's 2 after, within this small period of weeks, months. I'm going to say, I said 5 months because it's a pretty big gap, but I'm going to say probably like 2-3 months, maybe even 2 weeks, maybe a week, 3 weeks. Frankie can reaffirm this, what I'm telling you right now. And my mother also can't. So, but in this point, Frankie, this lady shows up at our house when my dad is in the house. My mother's not saying anything to my dad, but she does something with the clock. She puts batteries in the clock. And so she tries to use the crucifix, like related, because we always had a crucifix right above our door, to say, I'm going to get away with this. You're perfectly fine. So whatever this person is to me, I'm fully acknowledging that this person is, I'm going to rape you, then use a crucifix. You see, you're perfectly fine and everything's good. We got what we want. We took off. We never see us again, and that's what happened. That's exactly what it was, in my opinion. But my mother never encouraged, because that toy was nearly brand new. And I remember that. It was like brand new. And my mother at times would, my mother was the kind of person, when I was playing like Duck Hunter on Nintendo and she saw me playing with the fucking gun and shit, my mom threw it away. If my mom saw me playing with the guitar, I remember when I was a little kid, it's on videotape and it's on camera and we have it in pictures, my mom actually ended up throwing it away because I went and grabbed the guitar and I started playing with it a little bit, and then I go back to the closet and put it away. And so my mom started to get really scared that was going to relate to something of my molestation or some bad negative behavior. And I remember that. And she threw that away as well. So, but I remember my mother, she would have, because that toy was like brand new. It was 3 wheels. It was 3 wheels. You pop open the seat, and there was like 3 batteries. These big block batteries they used to have back in the days. And Frankie can verify that. It was before Julian was even. I'm going to say Julian had just been born. Either Julian was just been born, or it was right before Julian got born, right after or right before, because I was very young. And so this immediately tells me that my mother, she knows she has a newborn child. I'd have to do everything to survive. There's no one that's going to say this. This guy was reaffirming his threat when we showed up again. Ask Frankie. I'm telling you, Frankie is going to remember that shit. God, I hope he can remember it. And I'm going to draw the drawings so you can show him about what had happened. My mother is in complete chaos of threat in such a continuous basis. And then you said Michael Jackson because it was just investigation because of Miguel. No, it was because of other shit that was going on as well. So I'm going to draw the pictures and I'm going to give a layout so that you can go over it with Frankie. You can go over it with my mother. But I know my mother's not in a good mental state to remember these things. And I say this because there's absolutely no way that this can be, verified unless it's one of those two. But I'm going to tell you that that's exactly what happened. But my mother was wanted me to give that toy, and I did, because my mother's like, oh, see that, look, see, that's okay. And I know how my mother is. She's like she knows, she looks at Frankie, and I can know that my mother's paranoid. My mother's scared because she's moving her eyes like quick, like you know, like there's something that's going on. I don't understand how this woman, because she just giving signals to Frankie. It was probably like an hour or two later after this lady left that when Frankie started to get raped, and then he decided to do the hostage situation. So Frankie, I don't know how this lady relates, but I don't understand. And I remember thinking that to myself. Like, I didn't approach my mother, but I remember my mother going like this and getting really scared. But he went to like, I want to say that this guy was doing physical behavior outside, because he knows he's outside, with a flathead or like a screwdriver or pliers or something like that, and did something to like the car, or he approaches it, and then it falls on the ground, right? And he does this, and he picks it back up, and he's walking kind of very affirmed frustration back into the apartment. I don't know if he comes back out, but he's getting his reaffirmation of his threat that my mother knew that it happened. So that's what I want to say. Please look at this. This is astounding to me. Frankie's the only one that can verify it. We're going to show these drawings, and this is for my mother's sake. My mother was crying because she knew she had to sell Frankie off in order to survive. And the same way that President Barack Obama has forced him to sell me off and kill me off for his political movement to survive, that's what my mother has to do again. So I say that very importantly, because the fact that my brother's getting viciously raped, and that my mother is in a vulnerable situation, it is for Michelle and Barack Obama. They knew what the fuck you were doing, and the psychologists knew what the fuck they were doing. So I think it's important. I'm going to draw the drawings, and I'm going to give them back over to my mother's twins, or whatever, my aunts, for them to give. Now, what they do with it later, within a couple of weeks, throw it away, there's nothing I can do, but I'm going to post it like I've done everything else, because I believe everything on Facebook and Instagram is controlled, and then you can post that to whoever the psychologist to verify the traumatic shit that's been going on. Now, I understand that this happened 35 years ago, but the reason, not only do I remember, but I don't understand why the association, why is my mother taking it? And I don't know if this lady showed up, like, the only reason she would show up is because she was scared that this guy was going to be snitched to the police, and he was an immigrant, and that is why. But I remember that this lady was trying to clean up his mess, and this lady was fucking crazy. For somebody to signal to Frankie to rape, like go after him, go get him, and do that, and then take off, because she didn't walk. The name that she stayed at our house, she didn't walk and leave somewhere. Someone came by and picked her up. I don't know who it was. Someone came by and picked her up, and she left. So I think that it's important for me to say something. There's a, it's very sad to say, but the only Christmas videotape, one of the only Christmas videotapes that we have when we were kids, he's in that video. He's in that video. But I want to say this because not only that it verifies the fact that my mother is having to do this, but she knows she has to feel she can't do anything. I remember her 100%. She was crying. Not like, it wasn't a cry. It was like, you just have to endure it because we have no choice. They're in charge. They're going to do and take anything they want, and they're going to make up any story. This is the only way we survive. If you have to sell your kid's ass, then we just need to get away. Just let him have a toy. We gave him something nice, and we leave. Just give him this money, and we leave. We're helped. We're safe. It's the same thing like they're telling my mother to throw me away when I was 18 years old, and all this shit that happened, and have her twins poisoned. Just get rid of him, kill him off. He's almost dead of a disease. We'll blame it. We'll know how to talk it over with President Barack Obama, Michelle Obama for the rapes, in exchange for political power, and George Bush, and then Michael Jackson. And then you see, you just sound as fine. You see, we were Holy Spirit with Jesus Christ. And that's exactly what they're fucking doing. So I think it's important because the sacred experiences that I think that my mother is not identifying is so barbaric. And this is why. My mother was not saying anything to my father, and it's out of pure threat and fear. Because if you don't do what I tell you to fucking do, you know who the fuck's gonna fuck with you, who's crazy enough to fucking do it. Do you see how President Barack Obama and these motherfuckers are doing this shit? Do you see it? I went to the zoo today and I got threatened by a couple of people that were showing up. And it was just chaos. I mean, everybody's so much attention on me and focused. And I want to say that. That's all they're trying to do is focus on Sarah, the Sarah Cooper lookalikes, Kane Cooper lookalikes. That's all they're vouching out there for, going against my mother. Because they don't want to get caught. The President of the United States is the one that's excusing that goddamn shit. He's doing this to my mother. He's doing this fucking shit. Oh, because he's not the president anymore, though. So I want to make this. I want to make these drawings if I'm allowed to. I'm in a lot of pain right now. It feels like my jaw hurts. I don't know if this is a fucking incoming stroke or some shit, but it hurts really bad underneath my jaw and like the side of my brain or like the back of my head and like the inside cranium of my, I don't know if it just fucking hurts. But I want to make this for my mother. She didn't have to sell my brother's ass to get fucked in for Barack Obama, Michelle Obama's family, and George Bush and Michael Jackson. For the dream home makeovers to say, oh, fuck you too. Oh, you see how stupid it is. So I think it's important to talk about it. I was fucking there. I'm going to draw these pictures. I'm going to lay them out in several sections to what had happened. My mother was crying because we couldn't leave. That guy showed up, and I remember, like, to me, the way that this guy was doing it was like this. Like he's walking, and he's going. And he's going like that. So he goes back into the apartment reaffirming, remember what I did? Don't say anything. And he goes back into the house. But Frankie was there and he wasn't welling up crying. I remember him going like that. And so this is whenever my mother's like this, and she's like 35 feet away from the truck the entire time. Me and Frankie are in the other truck. And my mother's like this, and she goes, oh, it's okay, Frankie. Oh, Hector, yeah, dáselo. She's kind of doing this, like, I'm nervous, like, what this person's doing. So I want to talk about this. Please understand how serious this is. I know that this is all garbage, but to me, it's what had happened and what money they're going to get later for President Barack Obama and the excuses and how many people are against it. This is not, in everything I've ever done and everything I've ever said, nothing has ever came out in any of my favor. It was only explaining the horrors and then turning around everything against me. But that's part of the situation. Some people end up dying caring for the experiences of others, not a fucking monkey-ass president that wanted to do that goddamn shit to my mother and me and Michelle Obama. Yeah, I know, for the niggas, for people are dying all the time, American soldiers got burned alive, you feel sympathy for that shit. Because it's kind of like a God token to say, my mother went through something, and it wasn't for you. You can see right now they're shooting me with an electronic device, and they're just shooting me right now to discipline me. And they're shooting my heart because it's the heart of Jesus, and my heart, all it was Barack Obama, and that's how they poison me. That's how they're poisoning the circumstances to contaminate me, so they don't want you to know. I'm making this video, hope this reaches out to the right people. Other than that, it is just the past. But I say that my mother was very, very scared. Look. My mother was very, very scared, and she was in a hurry to try to be safe and get the fuck out of there. Get the fuck out of there, because it was really fucking bad. And I kept on asking my mother, and I was confused, because this guy showed up very quickly and then left. And I was confused, because this lady was associating with this person, and I'm like 6 or 7 fucking years old. 6 to 7 years old when this happens. So I think it's important we get, and I kept on looking at my mother. I said, Frankie, why are you crying, Frankie? And you know what I thought? I know this is even more frightening. You know why I thought they were crying? You're not going to believe me when I say this, and this kind of frightens me, that I can even recall their emotion. I thought it was because I was giving something kind to a poor kid that didn't have anything, and they were emotional about it. And that's how my mom got emotional about it. To give you something in life, because it's just, that's what love is sometimes. And I was asking my mother, why are you crying? And I said, why are you crying? And I was sitting in the front passenger seat. And I asked and I said, what's wrong? And they didn't want to, my mother didn't say anything. So I want to say this. That's what I have to say about it. So hopefully this touches base.